Hey friends, in today's video, we will be discussing how you can improve your IELTS listening band score. If this is something you want to know, then continue watching because I will cover what you should expect from the IELTS listening section, the question types you may see in IELTS listening, and understanding how the IELTS listening section is calculated. Then I will cover where you can go to practice for IELTS listening, and I will provide you with 3 recommendations of the best podcasts you should listen to that will help improve your English in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. For those of you who don't know, my name is Miss Wafa and I'm a certified English language teacher in Canada. So first of all, the IELTS listening section will last for about 30 minutes. So within this 30 minutes, you are going to hear 4 different recordings that will range from a discussion between 2 people, and then towards the end, you will hear a lecture that's happening in a lecture hall between a few people discussing a training manual or discussing something to do with academics. So you need to be prepared for this. You need to be able to differentiate between the voices when you hear multiple people talking. So some question types you may see in the IELTS listening section may vary from multiple choice, sentence completion, label the diagram, matching question, and summary completion. Some people often ask if the IELTS listening questions go in order. So yes, they do go in order. So you must make sure you listen for the answer because you only hear the recording once, guys. If you don't know the answer, take a guess. You have nothing to lose because that's one opportunity of you getting the answer right. So let's talk about how the IELTS listening scores are calculated. So in the IELTS listening section, you are given 40 questions. And for every question that you score right, you are given 1 correct mark. So if you are wondering how you can increase your IELTS band score, then take a look at these suggestions that I highly recommend you to implement into your study days. So the first suggestion I have is that you need to start listening to different podcasts, different YouTube videos of the different English accents, such as American, British, Canadian, Australian, because you may hear an audio recording of an accent you might not be familiar with, guys. Like for me personally, I have a difficult time understanding some British words. So I would highly recommend you to listen to accents you are not familiar with. And if you don't know a particular word that they are using, take a minute to look it up in the dictionary because you may hear it on exam day. Guys, another way of increasing your IELTS listening band score is that when you are first given your questions, you need to highlight potential keywords that you may hear in the audio recording. The third tip I have for you is that you need to pay attention to the instructions of the questions. So for example, when you are given the questions, usually right at the top, it says that your answer should be no more than 2 words. Your answer should be no more than 3 words. Whatever the examiner is looking for, you need to make sure that you only give an answer with 2 words or 3 words. This is extremely important because if the answer says 2 words and you write 1 word or 3 words, you are going to get it wrong because you did not know how to follow instructions of what they are looking for. And last but not least, just as I mentioned earlier, is pay attention to synonym language in the recordings. So here is an example of IELTS listening band score calculator. So if you are able to score between 39 and 40 right answers, you would get a band 9. If you are able to score 37 to 38 right answers, you would get a band score of 8.5. And if you were able to score between 35 to 36 right answers, you would get a band score of 8. And a band score of 7.5 would be 32 to 34 right answers. Then a band 7 would be between 30 to 31 right answers. So for the IELTS listening section, you will be provided with an answer sheet where you will need to transfer the answers of the 40 questions on the answer sheet. So guys, one thing I highly recommend is that you do not even look at that answer sheet until after all the recordings, because the examiner will give you 10 minutes at the end to write the correct answers on the answer sheet. But just remember that when you do get to the end and you are given 10 minutes to write your answers on the answer sheet, make sure you don't make any spelling mistakes. And once again, as I mentioned, you need to make sure you are following the instructions. I highly recommend that you listen to podcasts to better your vocabulary, to become familiar with the different pronunciations of the different English dialects. Just so you know the accents, you become familiar with them. So don't limit yourself to only doing IELTS listening practice tests. So I highly recommend that you listen to different podcasts, different TED Talks, different lectures on YouTube. And at the end of this video, as I mentioned, I will recommend 3 podcasts on how you can improve your English. So keep watching, because I really want to help you genuinely to pass your IELTS exam. So guys, here are 3 podcasts that I recommend you to take time every day to listen to, because these will really help you improve your English in all the different sections of the IELTS exam. So the first podcast is called the American Life Podcast. This podcast is actually documented by a journalist who goes around and talks to Americans about their life growing up in America. So you really get a sense of American slang, American vocabulary, how to speak like a native speaker, and it gives you the opportunity to pick up certain words that will help you in all the different parts of the IELTS exam. So if you are interested in this podcast, then like I mentioned, take a look in my description box down below. And the second podcast I highly recommend is called Learning English Through BBC in 6 Minutes. So these 6-minute episodes are really great because it actually asks you questions related to the audio recording that you are listening to. This is a great way to practice if you are able to multitask by listening to an audio and then doing the question. So I highly recommend you take advantage of this particular podcast as well. And last but not least, guys, the third podcast I highly recommend, it's called National Geographic Podcast. So this podcast was actually made by National Geographic, and this gives you an opportunity to build on your vocabulary, especially because you will learn new words that you can use throughout the different parts of the IELTS exam. So guys, if you liked my video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I put out content every Friday in the different parts of the IELTS exam. And also please check out my website at eslwords.com, where I have written lots of different articles on the different parts of the IELTS exam with different strategies and techniques to help you get a high band. Before I take off, please check out this video, because these are tips that will help you in your IELTS listening section.